Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Hey,
Everyone,
Lauren.
please excuse the delay. We're running back to back actually this week when it comes to the webinars we're hosting. We have that huge grant program that I've shared before. I'll also share again after the intro, but let me give it a few seconds while everyone comes in. Hey, Mike, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We know you're a busy lady, so thanks for handling this.
Of course.
Hopefully the previous webinar went well. And you're going to talk about that grant program, right?
I am. I'm going to give it a few seconds and pull up my screen. 1 second.
Hope everyone's enjoying a good day and staying warm. Lauren will be back in a minute. Today, we're going to be talking about market research. So we appreciate you joining us today. GB is out. He had to handle a business item. He has his own CPA firm and does tax preparation. He's in its busy season. So he will be back next week. I will not be able to make it. I'm attending a lender roundtable in Orange County. There's like 150 lenders, so I'm going to get to loan lenders that will be able to help me help you possibly get a loan. So while Lauren is off handling some things, let me give you a brief introduction to the SPDC if you're not familiar with us. We are a national program. We are funded by a grant from the state of California, a grant from the Small Business Administration, supported by colleges, universities, and other partners across the nation. We are at no cost to you. We have one-on-one advising sessions, and we have workshops, which one you're going to go through right now. We have a staff in Long Beach, which is our lead center, where Lauren works out of. And we have centers in LA at various locations throughout LA County. If you're outside of LA County, there's something called America's SPDC, and I suggest that you take advantage of it. So with that, I'm going to, and Lauren, I already went through some of this. So there's over 1,100 locations across the country, and we're here for economic development. That is our purpose.
Hey, Mike, I was just going to share that last one so that people can see our contact information. These are our locations. I know you already went over what it is that we offer, which is here, but here's the one that has that contact information. So you can reach us by phone or reach us by our website. And then if you're outside of the LA County, Los Angeles, or Ventura counties, you can go to americassbdc.org/find your SPDC. Hey, Mike, did you want me to share the grant program?
In a minute,
really
there's a key point here. We have 200 plus business advisors. You may only see a few of us on these workshops, but there's 200 of us in LA County. And the advisors, my colleagues, Lauren's colleagues, are really good at what they do. So although you may not see them on screen, we have specialists in every area of business. So take advantage of what we have to offer because we're here for you. It's your taxpayer dollars at work. And one of the things we do is we help people get money through funding, through loans, and through grants, and through equity. And that's a key component of any business. So Lauren, why don't you go ahead and explain the grant opportunity that's in front of folks. Lauren went off screen again. So there is—
No, Mike, I'm here. I'm pulling it up. I'm sorry. My camera keeps going in and out.
That's all right. Go ahead and pull up the grant opportunity.
Okay, let me pull that guy up. Can you see me?
Yep.
Okay, let me make sure you can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, so let me start here. I'm going to put the link to the landing page, to the website into the chat, but here is our Economic Opportunity Grant Program, or EOG program is how we refer to it most times. You'll just scroll down, it'll show you the 2 phases. You'll notice that phase 1 is still going. Mike, it's been extended into March 25th, excuse me, so in a couple of weeks.
Good.
Yeah. Yep. So far, it's been extended once. We'll see. And then we have phase 2 that rolled out last week on the 23rd. It goes through May 20th. Notice that for both phase 1 as well as phase 2, micro businesses, there's a slot for you. Pay attention to the award amounts, also eligibility and requirements. That's very important. If you received a California Relief Fund grant, which would have been awarded, Mike, last year sometime in the amount of about $5,000?
5,000 or more, 10,000 if you had a lease or something else going on. Yes.
That program disqualifies you from phase 1, but notice that there's micro business here, like I just said, as well as here. So you could qualify for phase 2. The reason why it disqualifies you is because the bucket of money that those grants were awarded from is the same bucket that comes from phase 1. Phase 2
so
is
to be clear, for phase 1, you're disqualified if you receive the California Dream Fund. Phase 2, you are not disqualified.
Correct. California Relief Fund. Yes.
Yes, the California Relief Fund. Has nothing to do with PPP funding, EIDL, none of the other grants, only the California Relief Fund.
That is correct. Now, phase 2 has a few buckets. So we've got the micro businesses here. We've also got small businesses and then nonprofits. And for nonprofits, there's 2 levels. One is for those in the amount of 20K, and you'll notice this is a stipulation here. So it's that under 1 million in revenue in these 3 taxable years. Now for that 25K, which is here, you'll notice that it's revenue between 1 and 5 million in either 2019, 2020, and 2021. So again, I'm not going to dive too far into it. I just wanted to be sure that I showed you all the website. This is what it looks like when you get here. Prepare to apply, you'll click that tab and you'll be able to see like the checklist as well as eligibility guidelines, Mike, ineligibility. And then you can also apply directly from the site. It'll take you here to the Registry portal.
We'll stay on this a little bit, okay?
Oh, we're okay? Okay.
Ineligible businesses are basically the businesses that the federal government doesn't want to support. For example, probably gambling, publicly traded companies, because they have their own funding. Corporate-owned franchises, right? No banks, lenders, those types of folks. No insurance companies. No private clubs. The SBA will not support private clubs. No pawn shops. No palm reading, which is interesting. No liquor stores. No vices. Okay. No lobbying. That's never ever will we support lobbying activities. That's political. We'll never support gambling activities. Trailer storage. That's interesting. Okay. Nothing of a sexual nature. We never do that. No cannabis, right? Am I correct about that?
That's correct.
No cannabis. No political activities. No gun and ammunition for obvious reasons. And of course, no businesses, organizations that have been disbarred, suspended, convicted of a felony. Plus, you must be in business as of 2019. This is not the nonprofits. Nonprofits are a little different. But for businesses, you had to be in existence doing business as I think it was December 1st, 2019. Okay, this is not for new businesses.
That's correct.
This is to help people who have been suffered from the COVID pandemic.
Correct.
And I can tell you personally, because I help people go through this process, it is time consuming. It took us about 2 hours to go to each person applying for the micro grant. If you don't have all your documents together that's readily available, it's going to be a problem. Make sure you have everything ready available, scanned in, and keep in mind that you're going to have to provide identification, access to your business bank account. So it's best to gather everything before you go through the process. But it's well worth it for the amount of money we're talking about.
Totally worth it. I wanted to show, because you talked about the list of required documents. It's here on this landing page, and you can scroll down and see it for both phase 1. There's phase 2. Small businesses, nonprofits, because all of that falls underneath phase 2. And then here's the really big part. It's we're here to help. So there are application guides where you can go in and actually see a step-by-step on how to submit your EOG application, Mike. But then we also offer phone support, email support, and text support. So the phone support And email, I like to say, is for those who are having questions related to the application. So content on the application or preparing for the application. We have a phone number here where you can actually talk to someone 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And it's like a one-on-one, I'm sorry, and you can speak to one of the phone operators. If you are interested in our in-person events, Mike, we have a calendar listing of in-person events where you can come out. Most times we have the ability to walk you through the application right there on the spot. So you just bring your items and we'll get you through the application. And then tech support. If you've gone through the application process and you're running into technical difficulties, i.e. something isn't uploading or you're trying to hit submit and you're getting an error of some sort, you can call this phone number here, and they are available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I'll list these two phone numbers, and I'll also list the website, of course. And then let's see, if you go into the Get Help tab on the website, Mike, you can see information here. We've got info sessions. We actually had an info session today. We offer them Monday through Thursday, both Spanish and English. So on Monday and Wednesday, there are sessions in Spanish. And on Tuesday and Thursday at noon, both are at noon, excuse me. Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're in English. We have, today we had a representative from Lindustry walking through the application. So you're able to see the application portal and walk through it step by step. But we have presentations that are happening Monday through Thursday. And then we have drop-in hours. So Mike, if someone has like a quick question they want to ask, they can log on. We have sessions Monday through Friday in English at 5 p.m. And then we have a session solely in English every Saturday, and that is going to be from 9 to 11.
Really? That's great.
Yes. And we're going to be rolling out a special session dedicated to nonprofits. Should be starting next week. So we've got a ton of resources for people.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions, and we realize this is confusing because there's been a number of grant programs. Last year was the California Dream Fund, which is different than the California Relief Grant. The California Dream Fund was for new businesses. If you receive the California Dream Fund, which is either $5,000 or $10,000, you are not eligible for this program because you were not in existence as of 2019. The California Relief Grant was from 2020. I think it rolled into 21 too. It was between $5,000 and $25,000, depending on various factors. You need to go back to your bank statements from those timeframes to determine whether or not you receive the California Relief Grant.
We do not have a list. We cannot pull up a list and see if you receive those funds. So to Mike's point, please check your banking statements.
Right. Now, if you're in LA County, but you're in LA City, then you do not qualify for this grant.
For phase one, correct.
Right. Now
for phase two, sorry.
So phase two.
Phase two.
Pete, Lauren will put the link into the chat room.
Yes.
Somebody anonymous asked, is there a way to get a recording for today's sessions with the Lindustry presenter?
Yeah, as long as you registered for the event, we will have a recording. If you did not attend the event and you're looking for a recording, I'm going to put my email address into the chat. Send me an email and I can send you the recording.
Somebody stating that they can't hear us. If somebody would please put in the chat room that you're hearing us, otherwise that's that person's individual problem.
Yeah, let us know if you guys can hear us, please.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to go forward with the presentation. I'm going to be talking about market research. Do you mind if I stop your share, Lauren?
Oh, I'm sorry. Look at me hogging all the space, of course.
That's all good. So thank you. You're a busy lady today. Everything's going on. And I need your help with this, so don't go away. Okay? So I put together this presentation this morning, and we're going to talk about market research. So what is the role of market research? Well, you might want to do a competitive analysis, identify trends in the marketplace, aid in pricing strategies, meet customer needs, perhaps develop ideas for new products, and get customer feedback. Okay? So with that, we move on. So the why. Why do we do market research? Find customers. Better understand your customers. reduce the risk of entries into a marketplace or changing something about your product or service. Obviously, you always want to stay up with the competition. You are not working in a vacuum. You are not the only person doing what you are doing, okay? And so you always want to stay up with your competition, direct competition. Maybe you test your products or services before you launch into a new territory or into an accessory field for your business or services. Set better goals. I mean, can you actually, you want to double your sales in 3 years. That's your goal, right? Can you actually do it? The way you determine that is engage in market research, recognize trends. If you don't know what ChatGPT is, then you need to research it and know what it is, because it is the fastest growing website ever. I think it's gone over 1 billion views very quickly, and it's taking over marketplaces. It's artificial intelligence. If you don't recognize that type of trend, you're going to be left in the dust. And you want to identify problems and take action. So here's an example. In the fashion industry, creating clothes creates 93 billion cubic meters of waste contaminated by toxic chemicals. If you're in the fashion industry and you don't know that, then you're behind the times. That's staying on top of trends. Adidas, in response to this, introduced a plastic performance running shoe in 2019, promising that each shoe would be remade from an old pair of sneakers. Now, that's not a complete solution to this waste. There's a better solution. But people in the fashion industry who don't understand that this is a problem and a real issue that's faced by that industry are going to be left in the dust. Okay? I can tell you right now, dye shops are a huge issue for the fashion industry because the dyes are used to produce the dyes in the clothes that we wear. So if those dyes are not environmentally friendly, and if the clothes are not made from environmentally friendly clothing materials, we got a problem. And fashion houses are now coming into their own in terms of moving away from the traditional way of producing clothes. That's a trend that you need to understand if you're in that industry. Anything to add to this, Lauren?
I don't know if you can tell. I'm like choking back here. Sorry. No, I think you're spot on there.
Okay. So what is the process of doing marketing research? You identify a problem, same old story, right? You always identify the problem. You develop the research plan. You conduct the research. You analyze the findings and you take action. So what's the problem? We have clothes that are filling up landfills and its chemical sensitivities, as well as issues with regards to toxic chemicals. That's the problem that we need to solve. What's the project is associated with that? We'll try to find ways to using materials which are environmentally sensitive and dyes which are environmentally sensitive, right? So we have to develop research questions. We have to do a bunch of research concerning this in the marketplace. How many people would actually buy those clothes? What type of clothes do they want? What's going to be useful for them, et cetera, right? Are there suppliers that we can utilize to provide this? How many people in the marketplace that are already doing that? That type of stuff. There's something called secondary and primary data collection, which we'll get into. You have to choose the right methods and techniques. You have to do analysis. And Adidas did all this in regards to those shoes they introduced, and that's what they came out with. Whether or not it's been a success, I have no idea. Okay, but they took action, right? So we move from there. Now, Lauren, have you seen a chart like this or something like this in your career?
I have. That's so funny.
Yes. All right. So we have the various types of research: primary research, secondary research. This is casual. That should be causal, not casual. Exploratory research, descriptive research, qualitative research, and quantitative research. So you have 6 different types of research associated with looking at your market, okay? And there's ways of doing this market research, which we'll get into. There's community information, there's interviews, there's online surveys, focus groups, observation, internet data. And I do realize that spelling errors in here. I apologize for those typos. So, two primary methods of market research. You have primary research and secondary research. Lauren, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, let's jump in. So when it comes to, I mean, I know all of you can read the slides, so I'll do it really quickly. Primary data, it's the firsthand information about your specific target audience, whether it's acquired by you or a third party. I personally would suggest, well, it depends on budget as well, Mike. So if you are just starting out, you don't necessarily have the budget to hire someone to do this market research for you, Google's your best friend. Go ahead and do your research that way. Back in the day, I'd say go ahead and check out the library, but we're it's 2023.
Well, you still can, because libraries are online.
Yes, that's fair. If you do have the budget though, I would lean towards hiring a third party. It's something that they specialize in. So it's, the information you're receiving not only is timely, which is very important, but also comprehensive. And then if we move over from primary to secondary data, it's going to be that existing data that you can use to gain insight into your specific audience. Publicly available research data from a reputable source. Again, for those of you who don't necessarily have the budget to hire someone to get this information for you, it's pretty easy if you dive in to Google first off, and then I would also do my research via social media, Mike. You can check in there and kind of see who your competitors are, especially as it relates to online presence. That's going to be a huge one, especially in this day and age.
Thank you. You provide a lot of information at websites. Just go to your competitor websites.
100%.
All right.
You can learn a lot too. And then, if you are using a CRM or even like a something for like social media analytics, like a Hootsuite or a HubSpot, or there are a ton of them out there. You can actually benchmark your company against other companies to see what your presence are, to see the type of followers that they're getting, to see the type of content that their followers are responding to. And I know I keep jumping back to social media, but again, today you need that sort of presence. So those sort of analytics are very important. Sorry,
extremely
Mike.
Important. No, it's extremely important. You're right. There's other obvious resources for getting information, such as trade groups. Trade groups collect for your industry, like the fashion industry, collects all sorts of information that they provide. And there's lots of different trade groups in the fashion industry. If you don't belong to a trade group, you need to belong to one, because they collect this type of data, but they collect a lot more, and they also provide mentorship and coaching and ways to connect with each other from the same industry. Go to the conferences, go to the trade shows, you'll learn a lot. Primary research. All right, go ahead, Myron, talk about primary research.
All right. So for primary research, again, go ahead and take a look at the slide. It means that the researcher is in direct contact with the target customer. Companies usually hire third parties to conduct primary market research for them. Again, you can do it on your own, especially if you do not have the monies to hire someone like that, but the data collected from said research could be quantitative, numerical, or qualitative, so non-numerical, depending on the planning and the question prepared by the researcher. Now, take a look at this other side. So it's got, it's the graphic that has the types of primary research. Online surveys are super easy. You can just shoot out an email literally, and then you'll receive that's the information you need. You can also have like a survey monkey or questions on your website and have people fill it out that way. A Google form is really great too. It's a cheaper route, I'm sure. And then back to social media, Mike. If you post a story, you can make it interactive. So ask a question, ask a few questions, and then get, a sense of what your audience is feeling that way too. There's also mention of in-person focus groups.
They used to do that a lot.
Yeah.
Now it's done maybe remotely, but they still happen.
That's very true. and my interviews. And an interview doesn't have to be, you know, as structural as the word sounds, right? So you could have you know, a group of friends, or you could go into a location, or you again, social media, make a post and quickly ask the question, or you could even set it up so that you are having people almost like plants engaging with your content or joining your IG live or on your TikTok and answering questions that way too. It makes it more interactive. And then again, it also goes to who you're looking to serve. So who's your demographic? Who's your target demographic? If they are going to be those who kind of slant younger, then social media is definitely going to be your way to go to get, especially when it comes to like in online focus groups. I hear social media when I hear that term. If it's older, then you can go the more traditional route, your website, email marketing, etc.
Now, you're not going to engage in all of these, okay? Yep. Unless you have a significant budget, that's not going to happen, right? So it depends upon your objectives. What are you trying to do? If you go back to, you know, the rules of why find customers, better understand customers, you determine what type of research you want to conduct based upon one of these goals, all right? Or one of these roles. So it may not be appropriate to do an in-person focus group. It's not, if that's not related to one of your goals. You might want to find new customers, right? So in-person focus group may not be the appropriate choice for primary research. So keep that in mind. Let me go to secondary research. So this is when you're using outside sources, like the chambers of commerce, great resources for information. All sorts of government agencies, social media, all sorts of media for that matter, agencies. So the information is sourced from public resources, websites, newspapers, journals, TV shows, radio. I mean, there's a whole bunch of data information that's now readily accessible to all of us that didn't exist before the internet. In the 80s, 70s, when I was in college, early 80s, I didn't have this access. I had to go to the library, as Lauren said, right? We had to get the periodicals, the newspapers, the journals. We had to look at the encyclopedias. The internet is one huge university, and now ChatGPT has changed it all. Okay, Microsoft is putting billions of dollars into ChatGPT. So there is all sorts of information available to you through public sources and private sources. You just have to dig into it. You can be overwhelmed by it. You have to define your objectives before you start doing this type of research. Why are you doing it? What is the purpose? Anything to add to that?
No, that was awesome.
Okay. Causal research. So this is where you're defining a difference between cause and effect, right? If you take an action, what will be the effect? So if the packaging is changed of a certain product, then how will it affect the product sale and durability? So you have certain variables you're looking at. You're looking at prices, you're looking at the digital user experience, you're looking at ads, maybe SEO, search engine optimization, social media, Lauren's favorite. What's the season we're in? That might impact on sales and activity, right? Inventory, interactions with sales agents. These are the key independent variables, but now you have key dependent variables. So the dependent variables are based upon the independent variables, like sales, demand, feedback from customers, site traffic, in-store visits, revenue. You play around with independent variables and see what happens to the dependent variables. I know this gets a little bit, well, that's kind of jargon, right? So here's an example. We have a situation where an apparel brand wants to study its own business. It seeks to determine and measure the impact of changing the color of a signature product, right? So it's a signature black foil leather jacket, and it wants to measure the impact of changing its color to beige. The research obtained in this causal study will prove whether or not changing the color on a major product will affect sales. So what they could do is take imagery of this woman in the black and in the beige, not necessarily produce the actual jacket, and take surveys based upon the impression of how she looks, or anyone would look in that jacket. Or they enter the metaverse, as many fashion businesses have done, and they test the marketplace in the metaverse. They haven't really put money into actually creating the product, actually physically making the product, but they're offering as an NFT through the metaverse, and to see what the reaction is there. And if that works well, then they will know they'll go forward. That's a Causal Research example. Anything to add to that, Lauren?
No, and it's really awesome that you bring that up. There are even more fashion designers now doing their runway shows that way. And it's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's great. If you don't know what we're talking about, talk to a 12-year-old. They'll explain the metaverse, okay? They're either in Fortnite, or they're in Roblox, or in Decentraland. The metaverse, I'm not talking about Facebook, because Facebook failed. They call themselves metaverse. They try to create a metaverse and it completely failed. I'm talking about real metaverses. Let me go here. Exploratory research. So this is where the researchers have like a basic and clear knowledge about the issue, but research is conducted to get a bit of insight into the problem, like the problem with inks on clothes, because clothes cause a huge environmental problem, right? So the researcher must be clear about his or her ideas, right? So 5 examples of exploratory research. An ice cream vendor recording how many customers asked for soft ice cream served in a cardboard pot lid with a spoon compared to a cone or a scooped ice cream sandwich. They want to know which one people prefer. That's exploratory research. So they're testing it out, right? How many elderly residents in a high-rise building deposit their plastic, glass, etc., into the recycling bins correctly, versus going to a communal recycling waste facility. They're going to do some research to explore how that's going to happen, what makes sense, right? The number of shoppers at a grocery superstore who use a deep shopping trolley compared to a shallow trolley or handheld basket. I don't know what you use, Lauren. I use the handheld stuff, right? Depending on how heavy it is. The popularity of the gendered numbers of diners in the cafeteria who choose brown, red. That's interesting. Think about this. The popularity of the gendered numbers of diners in a cafeteria who choose brown, red, mayonnaise sauce or no condiment with their meal. That's how detailed they're going with this type of exploratory research. It's fascinating. Did you ever think that the color of the sausage you're using in the diner might impact on your sales? It may very well, right? How many people wear a face mask all the time while they're walking outside? Only when they go inside of a food shop, take away, don't wear a face mask at all. That was important during the pandemic, still is. I still see people wearing face masks. Does all make sense to you, Lauren? Yeah.
And 100%. And it to your point, it's insane to see how granular they get.
Yeah.
They go from color of sauce to even texture sometimes. It's insane.
Right. But if you think about it this way, if it's going to help improve their sales numbers, then why not? And it may not just be the color, it might be the size.
That's right.
Right? So am I going to generate more sales if it's this big versus this big? I don't know about you. When I go to Costco, my wife, I don't need these big jars of sauce, right? I'm not going to buy that. So if they offered it in smaller sizes at a reasonable price, I would. So that's why I don't go to Costco much anymore, because it's too much for us. Portion control. That's true for restaurants. Restaurants came up with portion control because they realized people were complaining about the size of the meals. Let's go down. Talk about descriptive research. You familiar with this? Lauren? Yeah, go ahead, talk about it.
So descriptive research. You guys go ahead and give you like a couple of seconds. Go ahead and look at the slide. But when it comes to market studies, you're looking at the buying power of consumers, right? Also, like the slide says, availability of the distributor and consumer profiles. First, let's go to availability really quickly. Mike, has it been, especially during COVID, how many places were you able to, well, not necessarily frequent physically, but even online, but you notice, like, for instance, toilet tissue production, or not even production necessarily, but just access to things getting bogged down at like the port or what have you, because of distributors unable to get those items to the consumer. Consumer profiles are super important. Going back to that previous slide, Mike, you're talking about a person who might love the color or be more have more affinity towards the color red, or a textured sauce versus something that someone that likes it more smooth. There's the huge argument of chunky peanut butter versus smooth peanut butter, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Those are two completely customer or consumer profiles, but they're both consumer you're looking to, if you can, appeal to, right?
Right. So you can try out certain things.
Exactly.
This also applies to services, not just products, right? If you're a tax preparer, you might try whether or not people would want you to prepare their sales and use tax returns, not just the income taxes. You can explore that marketplace. How many people need help preparing sales and use tax returns? By the way, it's a huge issue for a lot of companies. So it's not just products, this applies to services as well. Now, I think that's descriptive research. This, you're not going to do all of these. You're going to find the one that's appropriate for you, depending on your goals and objectives for doing the research. For those of you who aren't familiar what elasticity means, where it says price and promotion elasticity, there are certain products which we have to pay for. We just don't have a choice. We need help. We need a roof over our head. We need gas in our cars. We need milk in our refrigerator, whether it's oat milk or regular milk. You need milk. You need water. Those products are commodities. They're somewhat commodities, but the demand will always be there for those products. So as the price increases up to a certain point, we'll have no choice but to pay that price. Now, obviously, at some point, if the gas was going to go to $10 a gallon, at one point it almost did. I saw it during the pandemic with $7 a gallon. People will find alternatives. They'll buy electric cars, they'll do other stuff. Okay, but the point is, there are products that are have inelastic demand in services, but there's products and services that have elastic demand. So luxury products, Gucci bags, luxury product, that has an elastic demand, because as the price goes up, the demand may not go along with it. It depends on discretionary spending power. Understand where you fit in relation to elasticity and inelasticity and demand for your products and services. If you are literally the only game in town, then everybody's going to go to your game. If you're the only minor league team, baseball team in a surrounding area, you have no competition, and that's the only outlet for entertainment for baseball, then you have a lock on that market, and you can charge higher prices than if you were in a city where there's 3 or 4 minor league teams. That's how that works. So this qualitative market research, it's like quantitative, and it uses certain types of methodologies to go forward with the research, like focus groups we talked about, interviews, case studies, biometrics, ethnography, there's all these various types of qualitative market research. In the end, what it comes down to is you're using open-ended questions, not closed surveys, open-ended questions that help you determine whether or not what the products you want to introduce or the services that you're offering are going to bring value to your target audience. Okay, so this in-depth, how do you feel about chunky peanut butter, Lauren? Right, kind of like that. You like the texture, you like the taste, those type of open-ended questions. And usually it's a small group. You're not going out to like 500 people again. It's a small group. You want to get in-depth analysis for your market objectives. Okay, so the quality of the data that is obtained supposedly is far more superior because you're going really deep, not broad, with the people responding to the surveys. Okay, they call this crowdsourcing. It is to a certain extent. Now, for example, this is used in political campaigns to understand voter perception of political candidates and their policies, and by interviewing business leaders and diving deeper into topics of interest. It's usually less expensive. So the types of research that we were talking about previously may require to pay for some reports or to get subscription access to something, right? This is less expensive. So you're looking at 6 to 10 people and you're asking them open-ended questions. Anything to add to that?
No, I was just going to say, a lot of times the group, so the focus group, are like-minded in the sense that they are the type of consumer you are looking to appeal to. That was it. So it's not just, it can be random, but with this, I would probably look for someone who more fits the profile, the buyer, the consumer profile, and then, run the research.
Right. Brings valuable insight. Because if you're a scripted question, a scripted survey, you may not really get to the issue that's impacted on whether or not someone's going to make a buying decision. By leaving it open-ended and freewheeling, it may lead to insights that you wouldn't otherwise get. By the way, there are people that help you create these surveys. You don't have to do this on your own. Right? There are people that get out there that do a lot of this type of stuff. Always rely on people who have more knowledge than you to do the task you need to get done. So this is the quantitative market research slide. Go ahead, Lauren.
First off, how comprehensive is this presentation? My goodness.
I had fun today. I had fun this morning.
No, this is a good one. So quantitative market research, if you take a look, actually, you can take a look at the bullets, but let's go over to where that graphic is, the methodology framework, the survey questions, the design, distribution, collection, analysis of all of these things. Well, not most important, but what you want to make sure you do that once you collect all of this information, that you're actually analyzing it. Take a look at it. Make sure that you're crafting your approach to fit the needs of what people are telling you. But listen to the people. But if I go back to the survey questions, be intentional when you're creating these questions so that you're really getting to the meat of the information that you need in order to be successful. So it looks like, Mike, you have several here. How often do competitors release new products? What is the total number of customer reviews? Those items are extremely important. And guess what? They're pretty easy to achieve. A ton of times people are putting all that information on their website. They're putting it in their social. You can go to Yelp to kind of retrieve that info. If I go over to, number 5 is going to be huge. Average rating of our competitor's product. Check out what people are saying about the product as well as how they're rating it. And then you can benchmark yourself amongst that when it benchmark against that, excuse me. Average price discounts, those are going to be really good, especially if you're trying to ramp up for the holidays or a specific season. Check out and see what kind of discounts they're offering, and then maybe go a little bit higher with the percentage, or lower when it comes to something that you're charging. That's a really great way to get me as a shopper. And then average lifespan of a competitor's product. If you know that people same shameless plug, my husband loves these Oreos that are white chocolate covered. They only come out, during like the Christmas holiday. If he and other people who are like him were able to see those, say, in January, he'd be all over it. So it's, taking a look at what the average lifespan of your competitors' products is really important as well. But then also for you, when you're talking about ordering or creating inventory, you want to be sure that you don't have, let's say, those white chocolate Oreos in January, because no one's buying them then. But again, Mike, I'm sure you're going to make this presentation available, right?
Yeah, I will send it to you, and if somebody writes to you, and I don't remember the link to the YouTube presentation, perhaps.
Oh no, I'll share that. I'll get that right now.